I'm an odd one out in the sense that I actually always studied lighting, and I've always sort of focused on the same topic. So my background is I'm from Finland, and I got into art school. I think it was 1994 or something to study lighting design, and it was a very kind of creative course. So it was all aspects of lighting, all the way down to media, arts, and everything else. And then from there on, I worked as an architectural lighting designer for many years and got myself masters in this topic as well from the kind of more science side. I started my own practice 10 years ago and then ended up sort of moving much more into the kind of innovation and tool making for our trade, if you like. I firmly believe that lighting designers should be the leaders of innovation in lighting in general. So I'm sort of trying to put my money where my mouth is, and we have a startup for this, and we're now launching a software and trying to see what happens. The overall aim, I think, is to create enabling technologies, so open up the possibilities of sort of creative use of light. So like in many other disciplines, the tools themselves can sort of slow you down or speed you up. So that's one of our key sort of focus is create enabling technologies, but also sort of challenge existing concepts that are out there and see if there's something that we could all do better and use light in a more kind of richer, more digital way. In terms of achievements, I think I'm very proud of the fact that we've managed to sort of execute quite an abstract concept, which is in this case is sort of this idea of nearables, the idea of hyperconnected society. What does ambient communication mean in that context? You know, these are quite sort of research, high-level topics, and really sort of distill it down to a tool set. I think that's been maybe the biggest achievement so far. Well, the technology influences us dramatically. There's no doubt about it. And in some ways, you know, one day if you ask me, I will say that the technology is driving us maybe a bit too much, and we keep forgetting the concept. But at the same time, I often feel that many of our concepts cannot be achieved because the technology is not there yet. So it's this constant paradox. I love technology. I'm a total nerd when it comes to these things, but I think we need to approach technology as this sort of infinitely malleable tool set in order to achieve those concepts that we're all dreaming of. We've been focusing on sort of responsive environments, adaptive lighting, some call it interactive lighting, for many years. It's been one of our kind of key research areas, let's call it that. So I'm very comfortable with that. I'm also very aware of various kind of pitfalls and challenges that are still there. But in general, to me, it feels incredibly natural, the idea that light is responsive, that light is alive, the light shifts and changes and moves. It does that in the nature, why not in built environments? So I think the overall sort of trend towards this way of thinking is great. It's absolutely fantastic, and I think it's the right time for it now. There's no doubt about that, you know, any light you put outside will in some form maybe be considered as light pollution or might have some kind of other negative impact of it. But our work is 100% in urban context. So it's not necessarily such an everyday topic. I take things like sustainability as a sort of hygiene factor. It has to be there. We don't need to focus on it. It has to be there always. The fact you're using LED is not an answer to that. It helps, but I think intelligent design itself answers sustainability much better. And then if you're going into more sophisticated controls and all this responsiveness, by default, you begin to have a lesser impact to your surroundings. Well, I'm super inspired by sort of new tech developments, but at the same time, everything that's going on in the arts, particularly in media arts, digital arts. In the past, all kind of filmmaking and photography and all these sort of things have inspired me greatly. But I think right now, I am probably the most inspired by the sort of waves of innovation that are going in the world, and this whole sort of energy within the startup communities, and this sort of freedom of thinking, which seems to be now everywhere. So it's not just Silicon Valley anymore. There's little Silicon Valleys everywhere in the world, and that inspires me a lot. Large-scale deployment of intelligent control systems, for example, is surprisingly difficult to achieve still. There's a lot of these kind of quality elements that I feel still missing in terms of how light behaves, how sophisticated the control, for example, is. I find it quite frustrating that somehow in the architectural world we still seem to be using technologies that are very old compared to performing arts, for example, or TV industry. So there's a big gap there. Also, we're not adopting the emerging technologies like sort of AI or data analytics or these sort of elements that clearly will benefit lighting. We're not adapting them quite fast enough. I think we should be now piloting and trying out much more, not try to sort of create a perfect product, but rather create an interesting concept, try it out, test it, see where it goes. Then that sort of level of experimentation seems to be lagging a bit. My name is Tapio Rosenius. I'm the CEO of Skandal Technologies. It's a new startup trying to launch a concept of ambient communication. So we're interested of using light to drive people's behavior in public space.